Okay, here we go. Lesson 2.3, we're going to be graphing some linear equations in slope-intercept form. So when we're talking about the intercepts, we're talking about the places where they're crossing the y and the x-axis. So first up is the x-intercept right here in blue. You have x comma 0. Or actually a comma 0, sorry about that. That's when y is equal to 0. And when it crosses the y-axis, it's the y-intercept, and it is when x is equal to 0. So we have 0 comma b here, the y-intercept, 2 different points crossing the 2 different axes. When we put the equation in slope-intercept form, we've been talking about this already. We have y is equal to mx plus b, where m is the slope, and that is that ratio rise over run, and b is the y-intercept, or the point where it crosses the y-axis. All right, looking at the examples. This is kind of from the textbook, so to speak. Looking at the top up here, finding the slope and the y-intercept. It's really easy when it is in slope-intercept form. Remember we said that the coefficient of x, m, is the slope. So the slope is -4. You're either going to have plus b, right, or minus. The minus means that number is a negative. It's going to cross the y-axis below 0. So in this case, -2 means the y-intercept is a -2. So y-intercept -2. In equation B, right here, notice that it's not set up in slope-intercept form. So to get slope-intercept form, y is equal to mx plus b, you would want to add 5 to both sides of the equation, okay? Now that we have it in slope-intercept form, right here, coefficient of x is your slope, 3 over 2, and the y-intercept is a positive 5. So it's going to intersect above y. So let's give some of these a try. Looking at number 1, y is equal to 3x minus 7. So slope-intercept form tells us that this is our slope. M is equal to 3. And then -7 means that the y-intercept, b, is equal to -7. It's going to cross the y-axis at -7. For the second one, we want to put it in shape, so we need to solve for y. We'll add 1 to both sides to start out with, so that we could rewrite it as y is equal to -2/3 x plus 1. You can identify your slope as equal to -2 over 3. So when it's in fraction form, it's real easy to see the rise over the run. And then you have your y-intercept equal to 1. When we see a number like this, like m is equal to 3, the slope of 3, remember we can put 3 over 1. That's our rise over run. Okay, and I'm going to clear this if you're ready to move on. If we need to, we can take a look at this. There's, in class tomorrow. So we're going to skip it for now. And let's go ahead and graph. Now, it wants us also to identify the x-intercept, which means we're going to have to cross the x-axis on these. So I'm going to have to be very careful trying to get, I don't really have any tools, do I? I don't really have any tools that I can make a straight line. So I'll do my best on this. But in the first lesson, we made an XY table, right? We kind of used this as a rule, and we picked a couple points, substituted in for x to solve for y. We could also graph using our slope, and in this case, the slope is 1, right? And our y-intercept, which is -4. So we're always going to begin with the b, right? We will be graphing starting on the y-intercept. So we will count down 4 places. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is y is equal to -4. Remember, this is represented by the point 0, comma, -4. That's the y-intercept. Now, we need to use a rise over run ratio, and that's going to look like this, 1 over 1. But it could also look like this, a -1 over a -1. Okay, because we see this as a positive slope. We know this line's going to go in the positive direction. So from here, we can start with a rise of 1 and a run of 1. And then alternately, we could do the down 1 and back 1, because look how they would both go in the negative direction. So I'm going to continue this with filling in the dots until I can get to the x-axis, because otherwise I might not be able to make my straight line. So I'm going to continue the pattern, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, and then I can easily see where it's crossing x, because heaven forbid. All right, not a terrible line, but we want to identify the x intercept there, and that is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So the x-intercept is equal to 4, and that's the place where it's crossing the y-axis, and we have the point 4, comma, 0 is the x-intercept. Okay, let's try number 4, identifying the slope as equal to a -1 over 2. And so the 1 could be negative or the 2 could be negative. So -1 over +2 or +1 over -2. So when you have a negative slope, either the rise or the run is negative, but not both. And then our y-intercept is a +1. So this is where we're going to begin with B. So starting at 0, count up 1 on y, and that's our starting point. Okay, from there, we can use one of these. So if I'm going to use this one, I would go down 1, right, in the downward direction for negative, and then to the right 2. So down 1 to the right 2, okay, down 1 to the right 2. If I were using this ratio, right, also a negative slope, I would be going up 1 to the left 2. So notice that that point is also on the same line that I cannot draw straight to save my life. But we can see that the y, or the x-intercept right here, is equal to 2, and that represents the point 2, comma, 0 is the x-intercept. That's a place where it's crossing the x-axis. Easier said than done. Okay, I'm going to clear, so go ahead and pause if you need to. All right, this brings us to the very end of the video, your favorite part, where you get to explain with a little bit of vocabulary and concept check. So pick 1, 2, or 3. Please be thorough in your explanations, but also number the answers so that I know exactly which answer you are giving me. And I will see you in class tomorrow.